The Central Bank of Nigeria just dropped this press release, and this press release is all about them migrating to ISO 20022 standards, which have provisions for the legacy banking system to essentially be able to interact with the cryptocurrency space. ISO 20022 compliant messages can actually interact with the DLT space. And we see the likes of Chainlink really acting as that connective tissue. Now, this is interesting because this is the way the financial world is going. It is going to embrace distributed ledger technology to ultimately modernize it. And the interesting thing specifically about the Central Bank of Nigeria is the fact that they are working alongside EMTECH, if we dive over to a Twitter release, and another 5 central banks, being the Central Bank of Liberia, the Central Bank of Sierra Leone, the Central Bank of the Republic of Guinea, the Central Bank of Gambia, and the Central Bank of the Bahamas. And of course, the Central Bank of Ghana, which are actually using EMTECH beyond cash for their ECD CBDC pilot. So the Central Bank of Ghana is already using EMTECH. And what we want to do in this video is, of course, relate all of this to Hedera Hashgraph, which is the technology that EMTECH choose to deploy upon. I will show you that. But back to this initial document. So this is from the Central Bank of Nigeria. It says the migration to ISO 20022 standards for payment messaging and mandatory geo-tagging of payment terminals. Further to previous circulars issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria on the migration to ISO 20022 messaging standards for payments and settlement messaging, and in alignment with the SWIFT global migration timeline, all licensed operations are hereby reminded that ISO 20022 is the standard for payment messaging to support Nigeria's payment objectives of ensuring standardized quality data. In addition to previous migration instructions, the following directives now apply to institutions in scope. It talks about all payment transaction messages exchanged domestically or internationally must be formatted in ISO 20022 in line with CBN and SWIFT specifications. All institutions shall ensure complete and accurate population of mandatory data elements, including payer or payee identifiers, merchants, agents, identifiers, and transaction metadata. All scope institutions must complete migration activities and be fully compliant by October the 31st. Now, that is in line with the deadline that SWIFT have essentially set, which is the 1st of November. And this new messaging standard is essentially going to be, or has provisions to interact with the DLT sector, with the cryptocurrency space. And we actually see Chainlink also going live with SWIFT to actually implement integrations from pilots to a live deployment, and to essentially connect these two worlds, SWIFT and the traditional financial institutions under it, and the distributed ledger technology. This messaging standard, I believe, is all about essentially evolving the current format of payments, of financial messaging, to actually be able to be inputted into a distributed ledger. And Chainlink is really acting as that connective tissue. It says this November 2025, the world's largest financial messaging network, SWIFT, will officially launch its integration with Chainlink's cross-chain interoperability protocol, connecting blockchain technology to more than 11,000 banks and institutions worldwide. And the Central Bank of Nigeria is one of those. They are already working with EMTECH along with other central banks throughout the continent of Africa, and ultimately leveraging Hedera. We're going to show you that in just a second. So this development builds on earlier progress. In 2024, SWIFT and a consortium of leading financial institutions, including UBS, BNY Mellon, and BN Paribas, successfully completed pilot programs using Chainlink's CCIP testnet. Those pilots demonstrated how blockchain could securely enable interoperable transactions between traditional and decentralized financial systems. The difference now is that on November 2025 marks the production rollout. This transition moves blockchain connectivity from testing into institutional usage. And we see the Bank of Nigeria getting ready for this. Again, links to Hedera will show in just a second. It says what the integration enables. With CCIP integration into Swift's global network, member institutions will gain the ability to attach blockchain wallet addresses directly to payment messages, connect with smart contracts, oracles for secure data exchange with on-chain systems, settle tokenized assets such as currencies, bonds, or equivalent with speed and transparency across both banking and blockchain networks. For the first time at scale, blockchain capabilities will be embedded directly into the core infrastructure of the global financial system. This is huge. Again, going back to this, the Central Bank of Nigeria, who are, of course, partners with EMTECH, which leverage Hedera, are now getting ready to adopt this messaging standard and ultimately unlock what comes with it, and that is access, I believe, to the cryptocurrency space at large. And they're already working with EMTECH, which of course leverage Hedera. Let's look at a LinkedIn post to kick things off. And this is from the CEO and the founder of EMTECH, who we're going to listen to in just a minute in regards to why she chose Hedera. Wow, the last 2 days felt like a blur. It was my pleasure to be spending Thanksgiving with my team and the Central Bank of Nigeria to unveil an important next step of its regulatory sandbox. Indeed, I am thankful for this amazing opportunity. More to come. Led by CBN Deputy Governor Aisha Ahmed, CFA CAIA was the first of its kind international financial inclusion conference organized in Nigeria. The theme, scaling innovative digital models. 4,000 guests from 79 countries, central banks, regulators, fintechs, and startups converged for a packet agenda. Key initiatives announced: 2024 financial inclusion strategy, fintech strategies, open bank initiative, fintech bridge, Nigeria plus Egypt collaboration, regulatory sandbox. This was a unique opportunity for EMTECH and the Central Bank of Nigeria to share with the broader ecosystem what's in store to digitize the CBN regulatory sandbox, to make decisions faster, communication, startup expansion more seamless, and data reporting via APIs. This is the beginning of a new partnership to help drive financial inclusion, recognize the roles of fintech, and ensure the regulator is a catalyst for it. This is pretty huge. You can see some of these pictures here. You can see obviously the Central Bank of Nigeria's logo, and you can see the individual, the CEO of EMTECH. Now, if we dive over to EMTECH's website, they're all about modernizing central banking for the fintech and Web3 era. We know they are already partnered, in fact, piloting now with Hedera and the Bank of Ghana CBDC pilots. This is EMTECH, Bank of Ghana, and Hedera. They also, in regards to central banks using EMTECH's digital regulatory sandbox, it includes the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Central Bank of Liberia, the Central Bank of Sierra Leone, the Central Bank of the Republic of Guinea, the Central Bank of Gambia, and the Central Bank of the Bahamas. Highlighting in this post the fact they've done this in just 6 years. Now, if we take a look at this, you can see who their trusted customers are. You can see you've got the Bank of Ghana here. Here is the Bank of Nigeria. And the only DLT on here is Hedera Hashgraph. We've got NVIDIA on here. We also know there's a connection between Hedera and NVIDIA. If we go to the About Us section, it says EMTECH software solutions power the creation, compliance, supervision, development, and management of banking infrastructure. Say EMTECH's Beyond Suite includes Beyond Sandbox, Beyond Cash, Beyond Compliance, Beyond Supervision, e-wallets for digital currency transaction, and customizable APIs for development, which we know the Bank of Nigeria are working with them on. 4 central banks, 500 plus signups, 4 plus awards and team members. This is, of course, the CEO. We're going to hear why she chose Hedera in just a second. And if you continue to come down, you can see all the central banks involved in this. The Central Bank of Nigeria is one, and the partners that they're working with. Obviously, Hedera Hashgraph is the only DLT there. So I think there's clear links between the Bank of Nigeria and quite a few of the central banks within the continent of Africa and Hedera through this company EMTECH. What I want to do now is actually play you what Carmel Cadet actually had to say in regards to why she chose Hedera. And of course, remember that these guys are working directly with central banks like the Central Bank of Nigeria that have just updated us in regards to moving on to ISO 20022 compliance, which provides provisions for the usage of distributed ledger technology to a head. And Hedera Hashgraph is unbelievably well positioned, ladies and gentlemen. Let's dive into this.
Sure. I mean, coming from IBM, of course, studied with Hyperledger Fabric, had a good appreciation for how that could work into some enterprise use cases. But we also saw some limitations around financial services and tokenization of assets when it comes to Hyperledger. Great protocol for some use cases. But we believe that long term, the retail aspect of cash as a liquidity asset, as a very liquid asset, would really take hold and be better used on a public ledger, public network, with EVM compatibility that can be interoperable with other assets, just like cash is today. So if you walk up to someone and say, top up my Bitcoin wallet, and they take your cash and they send you Bitcoin from their wallet, that nature of it, I think, will continue to happen. And we wanted to make sure that we build with that in mind. So we ended up, after really taking some time looking at Hyperledger Fabric, Ethereum, Stellar, each have their pros and cons. We landed with Hedera Hashgraph for us. So not a typical blockchain protocol, if you will, which has also its benefits on scalability. We wanted to have EVM compatibility for smart contracts. Imagine central banks needing to tap into the benefits of not wasting money for the government, for example, or government payments. Imagine smart contracts, making sure that a wallet is still valid before disbursing funds or making certain disbursements for special programs. So we knew smart contracts were going to be a component of it. So we really took some time to research, and we really like working with Hedera Hashgraph. They've been a great partner, but definitely a great protocol. And of course, the energy, the fact that we work in emerging market, the energy consumption and the distribution nature of the running of the network is something that we knew that we needed to obfuscate. It was too much to ask governments and institutions to not only adopt a new technology, but also having to figure out how to manage nodes. I saw that very painful process in the early days. It literally kills so many blockchain projects.
Now, I believe that was from Thinking Crypto's interview with Carmel. You know, I think the interesting thing here is really what the Central Bank of Nigeria have came out with in regards to ISO 20022 standards and how they're moving on to them. What these standards are going to enable more broadly, and the connectivity to the cryptocurrency space. The fact that they are already working with EMTECH, which works with a number of other central banks throughout the continent of Africa, and ultimately they're utilizing Hedera Hashgraph. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's frustrating sometimes being in the cryptocurrency space, but stop looking a gift horse in the mouth. This is one of the greatest opportunities financially that will likely ever present itself to you, certainly if we're moving towards an economic singularity. Don't pass that up. Unfortunately, as an investor, you have time on your hands. That can be your best friend or your worst enemy. It's up to you which you choose to make it. But I'm pretty damn confident that Hedera Hashgraph is sensationally well positioned to essentially be one of the leaders in regards to the digital transformation that we are witnessing, which of course involves all financial institutions. And we're looking at central banks potentially leveraging EMTECH and thus Hedera Hashgraph, like the Bank of Ghana have already done. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.